Hello and welcome into Main Street Preps this week. I'm Russell Minozzi, joined as always by Tyler Palmatier. And Tyler, basketball season is officially in the books. I know you were one of our Iron Men out there covering a ton of games over the past 3 weeks, so I'm sure you're glad to have a break, but always a little sad to see a season go and a new one start.
Yeah, they kind of end at the right time. It's a lot, and a lot happens at the end. But yeah, definitely, it's a fun time. But to everything there is a season, as they say.
So we'll talk about basketball season a little bit towards the end of the show. It kind of went out with a whimper with the Division I boys and girls state finals the past couple of weeks, but we'll kind of put a bow on hoop season. And we're also going to talk to new Maplewood coach Chris Simpson. He's coming over from East Nashville, where he was the defensive coordinator for their 2 state runner-up teams the past 2 seasons. So looking forward to that. But before we get to his interview, I want to remind everybody this podcast is sponsored by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. All right, let's go ahead and get to the man of the hour, Chris Simpson. He was just announced on Tuesday as Maplewood's new head coach. Chris, first off, congratulations on your new role, and just want to get a feel for, how excited are you for this, especially heading back to your alma mater where you played and getting a chance to finally be a head coach?
I'm super excited. I even wore my Maplewood shirt today, my alumni shirt today. Yeah, I'm very excited for the opportunity that I was afforded by Dr. Brooks and the administration team at Maplewood. Let's say I really don't know the words because it's been in the works. It's coming as far as I guess eventually I was going to be a head coach, but just to have it at my alma mater is even a better feeling. It's a greater feeling.
Chris, this is Tyler. Let's talk about your time at Maplewood a little bit as a player. What were those years like? And, can you give people a glimpse into, of course, for people who don't know, you were a quarterback there. Can you give people a glimpse of maybe what that time was like for you as that guy and what kind of the culture was like or is like at Maplewood?
So when I first got there, we just coming off I went to Maplewood 2004 as my freshman year. They were just coming off a losing season. Coach Ralph Thompson took over the program, and from there he just really grinded and built into what I know it as. It was not necessarily a powerhouse, but it was a real team year in, year out, state championship contender. I felt like every year since he took over the Rams, and even passing on to Coach Broom. The foundation Coach Ralph Thompson set, and Coach Woods and all his assistant coaches around, Coach Black, Coach Left, Coach Long, all those guys that put in the time and effort with us. Because my freshman year we didn't do too hot. My sophomore year we got better. I think we won 5 games, 6 games maybe. Then my junior year, that was the best team I think we had. Like talent wise, those were the Terrence Holtz at running back, the Tadarius Jones, the linebacker, Jonathan Moore receiver. It was just I feel like we was very talented. Thomas Majors, the linebacker as well. That was probably our most talented group as far as talent goes. But I think I want to say we was undefeated the whole year. We lost to Hillsborough. The last game of the year, and we were so focused on getting back to play them again. We ended up slipping and then losing in the first round to I think it was Clarksville that beat us at home. So that year was it was a huge disappointment for the fact that that was the most talented team we had. My class, I guess we was the least talented of that group, but that's what I guess we were most of the leaders and the hard workers. Because the next year we started off hot, dropped a couple games, they ended up making a run. I think we ran off like 10 straight maybe to make it to the state championship, which was very, very good. It was a great time because that next class, the class after us, that had the Romario Cathys, the Marcus Cantrells, the Q Parks. Those guys were they had a good nucleus as well. But just be trapped in between those two classes was funny because we was always looked at as the least talented class and it was only like 8 or 9 of us, but it worked out. It worked out pretty well. So I'm very appreciative of the time I had there and the program that Ralph built. He let me, I can't say take the Rams, but let me be his quarterback, because they turned me into some of the things I am today. So I'm very appreciative of that.
And so, Chris, for the last 9 seasons, you've been an assistant coach in the Metro Nashville schools, public school system. And I know for everybody that wants to become a head coach, it can be a different timeline. Like, you can take 5, 10, 15, or even more years to get there. And over the past couple of seasons, we've seen guys like Anthony Brown at Hillsborough, Frederick Burnett at McGavick kind of move their way up to the ranks and reach that dream of becoming a head coach. But as somebody now who's gone through that process, I mean, what can you tell us about the journey and sort of the ups and downs that come with being an assistant with aspirations of being a head coach and then, finally getting here? I mean, what's that like?
I would say everybody's journey is their own, like you said. But I would definitely say surround yourself with good people who want to see you grow. There are I was very thankful for my every coach I've had, head coach I've had, start with Coach Brunetti at Pearl, Jay Gore at McGavick, Coach Waite at East, Coach Smiley when I went to Georgia for a year, Coach Williams from Overton, then my boy Jamal, Coach Stewart. All those coaches wanted me to grow. They wanted to see me grow. So they gave me roles so I can grow. I mean, once I told them my aspirations and my endeavors, they was like, here, let's see if you can do it. But the number one thing is surround yourself with good people who want to see you grow, who want to see you take on bigger roles, who have your back and in your corner. Because at the end of the day, it's a lot of people who, I ain't gonna say it's a lot of people, but there's some coaches who want you on their staff forever. They don't want to see you grow. They rather you be dormant and just listen to what they say. But surround yourself with very good people. Because AB, AB, Anthony Brown, Coach Freddie B, there's some good people. Those are my boys. But it's coming through the metro ranks. It's been fun. Especially as along the journey, you have to if you want to be a head coach, you have to position yourself for that. Take the interviews, at least put your name out there. Also, take notes of everything that you like and don't like that you can probably bring to your program or add to your program. I got a running tab of my notes in my phone of everything that I feel like this was wrong or we could have did it better. Just listening and learning a lot. Go to the parent meetings. That's the biggest thing. Go to the administrative meetings. A lot of things that you don't see as an assistant coach. Try to get your head coach to get into that. And I've been thankful enough that my coaches have let me involved in some of those meetings and things. So I've been keeping a running tab of all the things. And hopefully I can bring it to Maplewood and have success with it.
Chris, let's reflect just for a moment on your time at East, because that's one of those magical stretches for schools that haven't had that tradition where all of a sudden things are just it's a frenzy. Back-to-back state championship appearances and first one in school history, first region title in school history. How enjoyable was that experience for you, just to watch fans come out of the woodwork? I mean, you're also surprising a lot of people around town. The mayor uses an opportunity to put you guys on the Today Show. I mean, what was that? What was that run like?
It was definitely magical. But it was definitely magical. As far as just like, because the kids, when we first got there, Jamal, Coach Stewart had a plan, and just executing the plan. But just to see all the support and like you said, everybody come out of the woodwork, like the East is making a run, just the Metro support in general. Which I think is Metro's doing a lot better job of, is just pushing each other forward. It's not just worry about my school. Like, if any Metro school is doing great, like, go support them as much as you can. As far as the run, though, it was crazy. Just because the expectations grew tremendously, like overnight, essentially. Because when we started off, the COVID year, the COVID year was rough for everybody. I'm sure it was just so many ups and downs in that year. But I feel like we set the foundation, lay the foundation that year. Once the standard is set, it'll just taking it into the next year. and we got hot. We got hot at the right time. It's really after the Green Hills game. The Green Hills game was the awakening call for us. The second year. After that, we got everybody start to buy in more, start to trust the process because the details matter, and then we just went rolling from there. But then that next year, coming back this past year, it's like the expectations already up here. It's like, hey, you either meet it, you got to meet it. You got to meet the expectations. And once we meet it, I feel like we exceeded the expectation. We did. Fortunately, we didn't get to bring the gold ball home, but it's a 2-year run that a lot of people don't get to have. These kids went to 2 state championship games that some people will never see in their lifetime. So I hope they know that and take that away from it.
And for East to get to that point, of course, there were some difficulties. You mentioned the COVID year there. Not having a practice field on campus was another one, I know. But you guys were able to work through all that and have success. So how do you feel like your stint there as a successful assistant and the other stops you've had have prepared you to go into Maplewood and to try to turn things around there after that program's struggled for the last 5 years or so?
I just think it's more so taking beauty in the small things. I said the details matter. At the end of the day, you have a hand, you have your hand that you're dealt. How are you going to do it? I mean, adversity strikes, persevere through it. At the end of the day, I mean, it's football. Like we're gonna take what we have and run with it. We might not be the best facilities, might not be the greatest facilities, but as long as we have what we need, if the bare minimum is what we have, that's what we're gonna use. We're gonna use the bare minimum. We can't make excuses for not having success. I mean, when I was in school, our weight room was in the locker room for the majority of my time there. So like, there's no excuses to be had. You either get it done or you don't. I'm not big on the excuses. Like, let's just get it done. I mean, you take the small sample size that we have, because a lot of schools don't have the same resource in general, but they're still making it happen. So why would we be anything less to make an excuse? Let's go to work. We'll make it work. Eventually, we'll get it to where we want it to be, but we have to go in and put in work first. Nobody's going to come out and just hand you stuff that you ain't earned. Let's go earn it.
Yeah, and your defense has earned 30 turnovers per season, according to the release that Metro put out yesterday. I know that this isn't college football. Personnel changes dramatically in high schools most of the time, and you don't really get to have a system in every situation. But what's your basic philosophy behind what you do as a defensive coordinator?
The basic philosophy would be adapt to the kids that we have. We base out of 3-4, but I will run a lot of 4-man fronts if I feel like that suits us a lot better than the 3-man. We do a lot of movement. Our kids are not. My D line is not big. It's never been big. I think the biggest D line I have is my nose, which is 300, but the other guys are barely 220, if that. So we'll do a lot of movement. Try to do a lot of things that give teams problems. Fly to the ball for sure. I think we've done a great job in the past years just getting to the ball. When you get to the ball, turnovers happen. Good things happen. So that would be more so the philosophy wise.
Yeah, and to get back to Maplewood, Chris, I know you were talking about how when you were there, it was obviously a successful program when you were a player. And they've had success pretty recently, too, under Arsente Broom, getting all the way to the state semifinals in 2018. I'm curious, was Arsente somebody you talked to at all when you were considering taking this job? Or do you plan to seek his advice at all just on kind of how he was able to build things there at Maplewood?
Yeah, for sure. Arsente is one of my good friends as well. We call him the second godfather of of Metro, with Coach Fitzgerald being the first one. So I feel like he's followed in Coach Fitzgerald's steps, and so I always seek advice from him. We got a good group of guys who've been around for a long time that I'm always asking questions and want to know things from them. With Coach Broom, Arsente being up top, like I said, he's the godfather right now. So try to run everything through him and make sure I'm doing it correct, because he's been in Metro the longest. So we're trying to make sure we keep the Metro tradition going and make him proud.
Yeah. Last thing, Chris, then we're gonna get you out of here. McGavick, East, Cane Ridge, Pearl Cone, Overton have been anywhere from pretty solid to competing for a state title the last few years, but recently the drop off after that has been pretty big. Stratford last season 2-9, Maplewood 3-8, Antioch and Glencliff are riding multi seasons without wins. Hunters Lane and Hillsborough both well below 500 last season. Can Metro football be better consistently in terms of how deep, I guess, successful programs run in those schools? And what do you think the formula would look like as somebody who was part of a turnaround to get some of these programs back on their feet, so to speak?
I think so. As far as the turnaround and whatnot, getting Metro back to the old, I can say the old Metro, but I feel like every time everything comes in waves, it comes in cycles, especially school wise. Because when I was coming through, you have Hillsborough's up for a certain amount of years, then they fell off a little bit. They teetered off a little bit. Maple was up for years, then they teetered off a little bit. Whites Creek was very good when I was in school, and they teetered off a little bit. So I just think it just comes in waves and in droves. Now, how we dismantle, how we fight through that, I don't know. It's a question that we pose to our group chat every day. Just trying to get everybody to their peak. But at the end of the day, it's the kids. I mean, it's the players. You have to keep your kids. If they're at your middle school, you have to keep them. You cannot let them go to these other schools. At East, we had a lot of kids that we didn't have a zone, but we were optional. Well, East was an optional school, but a lot of kids they would have went to their zone school, but we was fortunate enough to get them. So I think it's about keeping your zone school kids at home and keep them. You gotta go out and see them, because it's all about relationships. I can't say that they want to be recruited, but they want to be recruited. They see what all these colleges are doing. They see the NILs and then everything of that nature. You just got to go out and talk to them and go see them, go to their games. But it also starts with a great administration and a coach that sees the vision. So once you couple all that together, I think you'll have a lot more success as far as these schools and whatnot. And actually keeping the coaching staff together is hard. Like, I was talking to Jamal, and he was saying that at the end of the day, he knew my time was coming. We got two other great assistants, Coach Southall and Coach Smith. Their time is coming eventually as well. So it's just, when people see you have success, and it's hard to keep that staff together. So keeping your staff together, getting your kids in your zone for sure. That's a big important. The great administration, I think that will help. That will bring Metro back to where every school is competing and not such a fall off. I said we know the top four, but let's get the others over the hump. Let's get everybody back over the hump.
Chris, real quick before we go, we're running short on time, but did you say that all the Metro coaches are on a group text together?
Some majority, I would say 90% of us, yes.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Be fun to be a fly on the wall for that. But Chris, hey, thanks for taking the time today. I know your phone's probably been blowing up over the last 24 hours, so we appreciate you taking some time for us. And congratulations once again, and good luck as you get rolling over there at Maplewood.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys and all the work that you do. I look forward to talking to you guys again.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes, sir. That has been new Maplewood coach Chris Simpson. Good interview there, Tyler. And we're going to take a quick break here and then come back and put a bow on basketball season. So stick around for that.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good.
I thought it was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal. It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor. I thought I could hold my liquor.
It's just a few cocktails at happy hour.
It was just a few cocktails at happy hour.
You really good try.
There aren't any cops around. I didn't think there were any cops around. I drink and drive all the time.
Sir, you've been in a serious crash. I need you to hang on, okay? Tell me your name, sir. Do you know where you are right now?
So the last 2 Saturdays have come and gone, and the Mid-State was shut out state title-wise at the Division I and Division I girls and boys state tournaments. Tyler, you were there for the duration for most of those. I caught the last Hillsborough boys game when they bowed out in the semifinals last Friday. But what'd you just make of? We talked about the girls tournament last week, but so this week, I mean, what'd you make of how the boys finished up and fell a little bit short there all across the board in the Nashville area?
Yeah, well, with Independence making it to the state finals, I know there's really no moral victories or anything, and you want to win a title when you're so close. But we talked a little bit before the season and probably even last year about hadn't been a whole lot of Williamson County teams really competing for that basketball state championship. And I think before the season, we were all kind of looking at Independence, right? Like, well, this could be a team that certainly could make it to the state tournament. And of course, Mark Wilkins has done such a great job there, and Jet Montgomery's been a great player for them to build around in terms of just a guy that's just a constant threat. And they were piling up wins, scoring a lot of points. And I just think it was interesting to see that that program proved it was the real deal after all those wins, and kind of people wondering, what might this team look like at the state tournament. So that was cool to see. And I know they would have rather won a title, but I thought that was a cool storyline. And, Metro getting 3 teams in the state tournament was a pretty cool thing to watch. And I thought MLK's storyline is so good, with Caden Anderson and his family history, his grandfather, but also just the turnaround that the program's having, and playing so well. I was really impressed with that basketball team, and not just the talent they have that's going to be moving on, like Simeon Williams, just a double guy, really good, but there's a lot of guys behind him. So that's a cool storyline to watch in the future. Of course, when you talk about Metro and you see that Class 2A tournament play out, you wonder if East Nashville's there. Are they holding another gold ball? Very good chance. So, you kind of think about that. You kind of feel for them. But then on the flip side, Procone did a great job eliminating East Nashville and making its own run, and really had a chance to win that first quarterfinal game. You wrote about this a little bit, Russell, on Hillsborough. They didn't quite get to that level where they could win a state championship. But I kind of look back at Hillsborough and think that they kind of overachieved a little bit. It's not a super deep team. There's no mega stars there. Sometimes they made their share of mistakes and gave up leads, but it was still a group that was hard to beat and just figured out ways to win. So that's, regardless, definitely, didn't win the title that they wanted, but I thought that was a good basketball team, considering, that may not have been, the best that the Burros have had. I guess the biggest takeaway was just, like you said, just a little bit disappointing. Maybe we were left wanting a little bit more, but, that's the way it goes sometimes. East Tennessee's really had some good teams, and of course Memphis has always got some good groups down there. So maybe it's just one of those years, the power balance just was not in the Mid-State.
Yeah, and that's okay, because there's always ebbs and flows of these things, and the Nashville area really dominated the private school championships too. So they've, can kind of hang their hat there as far as the finals go. But Tyler, before we get out of here, let's reflect on maybe some of the best games that we saw this season. I can kick us off here to give your voice a rest there, but actually, I was thinking about this. I ended up at a lot of good basketball games, actually. And for some reason, when at the end of football season, I looked back at all the football games I've been to, and I think at least 80 or 90% of them were blowouts, or at least games that turned into blowouts in the fourth quarter, games that we thought were going to be good, but a couple times quarterbacks got injured, or it started raining, or just I felt like every football game I went to, something weird happened, and the game was not as good as maybe it was billed, or as we may have built it to be on this show. And of course, you never know with high school sports, but I ended up at a lot of good basketball games, saw a few buzzer beaters. I think the best one was at Brentwood on February 10th. They were playing Ravenwood, of course, Battle of the Woods, big rivalry. Down 13 late in the third quarter. You're thinking that Ravenwood's pretty much got that game in the bag. And Brentwood mounted a great comeback. Daniel Cochran hit some big shots down the stretch in the fourth quarter. And then sophomore Kevin Spivey, who had really taken on a bigger playing role when one of their other players was out for an extended period of time with an injury, finds a little hole on a inbound pass, makes a buzzer beating layup, and the whole place just goes nuts. Students storm the court. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and it was a real surprise too, because like I said, at the end of the third quarter, looked like it was Ravenwood's game there. So I also tip my hat to I know you're going to talk about East in a second here, but the East Nashville Hillsborough game, that was probably the best, maybe overall environment that I experienced this year. That gym was packed full. They had stopped letting people in nearly an hour before the game started, just because, they'd already reached whatever number it was that the fire marshal allows in that pretty tight gym they've got over there at East Nashville. But East won that game 51-44. But man, it was back and forth the whole time. The atmosphere was awesome. People were just hanging on every basket and every foul call, which is just something you don't see at a regular season high school basketball game very often. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it kind of shows you the interest in big metro basketball when it's around in the city, because we've seen it for the last couple of years. Certainly East Nashville and Pearl draws a huge crowd, and this was not my best game I saw. I didn't see, you saw these buzzer beaters. I don't think I saw one. I'd have to really go back and look, but I do not remember seeing that. But
you had some better football games, so I guess it all worked out.
Yeah, and you want that tension. That's really what you want. That tension. That's what makes a great baseball game, obviously, but really every sport. Football, whatever. But yeah, East Pearl, that first one of after the break, was not the best game I saw. It was still close, but that atmosphere, like you said, it was just phenomenal. That Pearl gym has a pretty big, I guess it's the visitor side is what they use it as, but it's filled with everybody. But I thought the best game I saw was Innsworth Knoxville Catholic in the D2A Girls Championship. For one, it was a lot closer than the 5-point margin that it finished as, which is still pretty close, but it had that tension. And when you talk about Jelani Cambridge scoring 41 points, she's the number one player in the country in her class. Just the top player in the state, the Gatorade Player of the Year, the Miss Basketball. Her scoring a career high 41 was not only fun to watch, but on the other side, Sydney Maines for Knox Catholic, a Miss Basketball finalist in her own right, going for 33. They were going back and forth in one of those classic games where you just see the two stars just kind of putting their teams on their back. And I just can't think of a matchup like that we saw in the postseason that had that kind of star power going back and forth, with the exception of Isaiah West and Eddie Ricks kind of doing the same in that D2 single A boys semifinal. So that was a lot of fun for me. I just think it's fun when the top players shine, and of course you'd love to just see a great game with both teams just playing a great game. But it's a lot of fun just seeing kind of a heavyweight matchup like that with two players that are obviously really good. And then we saw Jelani Cambridge's game for the ages. I mean, that was a career high for her. So I really enjoyed that one.
And hey, she's still a junior, so a whole nother year of Jelani Cambridge to look forward to over there at Innsworth. But quickly on the way out here, Tyler, I know this is always probably a loaded question, but with everything that we kind of covered this year, I mean, who was the top player overall that stood out to you if you had to name one? Yeah,
and I didn't even see him, but because he's out in Tommy Bryan's territory. But I got to go with Jared Hall from Lebanon. When you see his numbers, I mean, 28 points and almost 10 rebounds a game. That is serious business. It's really hard to do, especially, he's not doing it against, 1A or 2A competition. He's in that big public school class and in 4A. Tulsa commitment at 6'7", 190, checks every box. Just got to think he's got a bright future, can shoot it and kind of do everything. So I'm going to go with Jared Hall, even though I didn't watch him. Probably should have.
Yeah, probably should have. But I'll go Jalen Jones from East Nashville, senior. It's a shame we didn't get to see them in the state tournament. You mentioned that. But, he took such a big step forward this year without Jared Taylor. He was their featured guy, scored about 24 points, 8 rebounds, almost 5 steals per game. And really, with the way that he's able to drive, get to the basket, dunk the ball, from three-point land, all he's got to do is kind of keep teams honest. If he shot in the high 20s or low 30s, he'd be good. But he finished up at 36%, and when you're pushing towards 40% from three, I mean, that's an elite number. So if he can get that up even higher, he's going to be just an absolute menace in college. And I think TSU got a great steal here. It's going to be fun to watch him kind of stick around town for the next, hopefully 4 years and see how he does. But yeah, if he can keep evolving his game like he did from his junior to his senior year, I think TSU fans are going to be thrilled.
Yeah, that is a steal for sure. I love everything about Jalen Jones.
So that is all the time we've got for today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Want to remind everybody on the way out, this podcast is sponsored by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. Be sure to stay tuned to MainStreetPreps.com throughout the week, and we'll see you back here next time on Main Street Preps This Week.